Critter lovers, welcome back to the channel. Today we will be speaking with some lizards who live in the Permian Basin of the United States. So I asked the animal kingdom who they would like me to communicate with today, and they told me lizard. So I was looking for lizards in the news, and this article is the first one that came up. This is an article from Ruidoso News, and the headline reads, "Court Battle Continues Over Lizard in the Permian Basin Oil Field." So just to show you, here's the picture of these little guys. So this article goes into detail about how there's a court battle in Texas happening right now. There are these lizards that live in the Permian Basin, and the lizards are currently listed as endangered, which it took actually a lot of work to get them on the endangered species list. A lot of environmental groups have been advocating for them to get on that list for years. And finally, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service listed them. But what the lawsuit is about is overturning their endangered species status. So as you can see, they were listed in May 2024. But the oil company doesn't want them on the list, on the endangered species list, because when they're on that list, it restricts them in where they can drill. So they would like the lizards, that they're advocating in the lawsuit to get the lizards off of the endangered species list so that they're not restricted in their drilling. But environmental groups are saying they need to stay on the list because the oil drilling is destroying their habitat. So it's kind of this battle right now between those who are concerned about the lizards' habitat and the environment and so on, and then these oil drilling companies who would like more ability to drill where they want, essentially. So that's what the lawsuit is about. So you can see here where I highlighted the dune sagebrush lizard depends on the shinnery oak brush and amid the sand dunes of the Permian Basin to mate and hide from predators. The Center for Biological Diversity said in its petition for intervention that more than 95% of the brush was destroyed by oil and gas operations and herbicides used in livestock grazing. So that's what's happening with the lizards right now. So I decided to talk to these guys, and I wanted to share with you what I heard from them. So first of all, I asked if they're endangered, as these environmental groups are saying, and they said their response to me was, in the technical sense of the term and for the reasons that animals are put on the endangered species list, yes, they are endangered. However, they do take issue with the word endangered because they don't want it to sound like, the word endanger, they don't want that to undermine the fact that they're a very resilient species. But they do understand why we use those terms and why we have categories, because it kind of helps give some parameters for animal advocacy and protection. So they're not going to fight it too much, but they do just want to put that out there. They told me that they really are appreciating that there is a heated discussion around their habitat. Of course, they don't love the situation that there's aggression towards their habitat, but the silver lining is that the confrontation over it, these groups of people fighting with each other over how to handle the situation. The good thing about the confrontation itself is that it draws attention to the lizards and the impact that they're experiencing from what's happening. And as humans, we can feel despair from these situations when we hear about them in the news and are concerned for the animals who are potentially being harmed. But the thing is, if we are hearing about it in the news, that's in a way that's a good thing because attention is being brought to the situation. So it's important to keep that in mind. So the lizards told me that they appreciate the people who are honoring their being and recognizing the hard work that they go to set up their homes and how demoralizing it can be for them when they get destroyed. And they shared with me that there's actually a lot of strategy that goes into setting up their homes and communities, and that it is in fact disruptive when there is drilling activities that come in into where they live, because they worked really hard to find the right places and to find good spots to have their nests and so on and so forth. And so it is hard for them when that gets disrupted. They actually requested for the oil companies to start staffing animal communicators. They think it would be helpful for collaborating with nature to have people that are working with nature to listen to their voice and then helping guide the decision making of these companies. Because the thing is, when organizations do communicate with nature, it actually helps them become more healthy and robust. And instead of being a detriment to their company in the way that they're thinking that it is, honoring nature actually helps their company thrive because nature is the greatest resource of all. They're thinking about it backwards. And so to illustrate their point, the lizards gave me this example of how the earth and the sun have a nice relationship with each other. They're very different on the surface. For example, the sun is this big burning ball of fire, and the earth is a big blue planet of water. But they have a symbiotic relationship where they work really well together. It's kind of like this yin and yang type of situation that they have going on. And so this is kind of a metaphor for how, with efforts to change things, there can be hope that energy companies can change to work with nature to find ways of continuing to live in a way that honors nature. In other words, energy companies are not mutually exclusive to nature. The lizards were saying that they need both the sun and the earth to regulate metabolically. And they were sharing how the sandy earth provides their home. They're able to connect with the earth to heal and regulate their temperature and so on. But they also need the sun, the warmth of the sun. They need both, and they alchemize the energies of both. And what they're saying is that just in the way that they alchemize the energy of both the sun and the earth, they would also be able to help oil companies in their process of connecting to nature and finding ways to develop sustainable energy sources. They would actually be one of the most ideal species to collaborate with because they're really good at identifying and utilizing resources where resources appear to be scarce. This is what the lizards are telling me, that they actually, here it is, here's a situation where the oil companies are jeopardizing their homes, but the very species whose homes are in danger right now are the species that could really be a great asset to these oil drilling, let's put it under the greater umbrella of energy companies. They could really help us as humans find sustainable energy sources that honor nature and help us live in harmony with nature. So the other thing that the lizards wanted to share is they appreciate us talking to them and sharing their story. And they want to make sure that we continue to center the voice of nature, not just the lizards as a species, but all of the voices of nature. Even the groups there are groups that are working very, very hard on doing that. And even amongst those groups, those environmental groups, whatnot, it's really important to make sure that assumptions about nature's needs or preferences or whatnot, that assumptions are not made, but that there's an actual communication and exchange of ideas happening. That's really important in order to be able to make sure that nature's voice is honored. So that is what the lizards had for us today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.